So our first speaker today is Jane Powell, and she's the Executive Director of STAMMA. Jane, thank you for being part of StutterFest today.
You're very welcome, and it's a great honor to open StutterFest. The whole event looks amazing.
We had talked about having a conversation between the two of us, because there's some things that I want to know about you and want to know about STAMMA.
Far away.
So, Jade, we had talked before about this, and you said that you had been questioned one time about leading a stuttering support organization, even though you don't stammer. So I like to take these topics head on. So Jane, tell me, so how do you feel that you can lead a stammering support organization even though you don't stammer? That's my question.
Because it's more than a stammering support organization. We're a membership campaign, and the vision that we have is to kind of create space for people who stammer. So I think the task is twofold. The task is to enable people who stammer to find the support they need, but it's also to change how people who stammer are treated. And for me, that's what's where I think I can really make a difference. So this is about equality. It's about equality and fairness and justice. So the challenge here is that, and STAMMA was set up in 1978, so it's been going a long time, and the information and materials and the expertise is inbuilt in the organization in terms of supporting people who stammer. So where I can help make that difference is to look and see how we can make and create real ongoing change. And for me, that's what I've been a campaigner all my life. I've not ever done anything different. And so that's, for me, where I think that I can make a difference. And when I was looking at stammer and the challenge that faces people who stammer or stutter, it's the fluent world. So my focus isn't on examining the experience and exploring the experience of having a stammer. There are people brilliantly qualified to do that who stammer. My role is to look and see how we change the messaging and the kind of if you like, almost the physical structures and the stigma and the things which stop people from who stammer from being able to fulfill their ambitions. That's my role, and that's where I think I can make a difference, because campaigning is the only thing I've ever done. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. My experience with you is you are a creator. So you're not just sitting back and managing people, because a lot of these ideas come from you. You have the vision. I would have no problem following you, even though you don't stammer. So I think that you're doing a really great job, Jane.
I don't think it's about being creative. I think, yes, trusting that you can change things and that things can be changed. That's my experience and that's what I've seen. I'm not creative at all. But the thing that I am used to and understand is the need to really focus upon what's that change that you need. And that's, in retrospect, when you come up with the messaging, really straightforward and easy. But before you get there, that's really hard. And that's, that's my role, is to keep driving through and understanding what that clear message needs to be. And that's been a journey over the last 4 or 5 years. That's absolutely, it's definitely been a long journey and kind of really interesting. I think that when I started the job, I felt that what we needed to tackle was the kind of comic idea about stammering.
Yeah.
And I think quite quickly that kind of fell apart. That didn't really work. But then focusing upon the language and pushing against some of the language about, around people being afflicted by their stammer and all that negativity around the language around stammering, it became clear that we really needed to push against that, not just externally, but also within our own community. And I think that's, obviously not a battle that we've quite won yet. And now the messaging is really, it's how we talk. And that declaration about the right to stutter, the right to be comfortable within our own skins, and for people to have how they talk accepted as how they talk, regardless of what that is. And so that's a messaging we've kind of come to now. And I think the next step is, so we now need to tell the world how to adapt to accept that, how to adapt the services and in their employment practices, and how we need to kind of physically tell the world how it needs to change. So that's been a long journey.
So how will STAMMA make that happen?
I've got a brilliant slide about it, but I'll talk you through it. So how we want to make that happen is, first of all, we need to listen to people who stammer, and look at where the touch points are, where change is needed. And so coming through our helpline services and through contacts through us, we hear people's stories about going for interviews and the difficulties, along the way of just attending an interview, or of kids going through having their French oral exams and needing extra time. So it's about taking all of those instances and saying there needs to be accommodation. There needs to be accommodation so that there is extra time for students who stammer. There needs to be a way of telling your bank that your credit card has been stolen without having to go through an automated kind of phone service. So it's about looking at all of those instances and then kind of coming back and then turning those instances into, these are the practical changes that need to happen, and then aggressively kind of going out there and saying these are the changes, or how are you making sure that that people can complain, or that how are you making sure that people can make an appointment with their GP without necessarily having, without being laughed at, or having the phone put down, without having to say certain words, and again, not being able to get through because you can't say those words, and being cut off. We've got these invisible walls that we need to make visible to the outside world. So that's broadly the plan.
How can we help make that happen? How can the rest of the world help this mission?
Do you mean how can other organizations, or how can people like Nike and HSBC Bank make that happen?
Both.
I think that the organizations need to go and rattle the cages of every kind of corporate and say, so you've made sure that there's wheelchair access. You've made sure that there's Braille on some of the things, on the things that you're selling. What are you doing to make access for people who stammer? And I think it's down to the organizations around the world to really kind of go, well, these are the changes that you can make. Have you thought about doing X or Y? And physically kind of coming back and saying, you know, how do you make accommodation? How do you make sure that your services, that your goods are accessible to people who stammer? And if you don't know, then we'll come and talk to you. We'll advise you. We'll help you with training. I think that we need to proactively go out there and ask organizations what they're doing. And those organizations need to take notice if they're going to have an equality and kind of diversity statement on their website, and they're going to be proud about how they do that, then they need to explain how they make those accommodations for people who stammer. Because I think very often they haven't really thought about it. And that's been our experience over the last months, is that there's organizations out there who specialize in providing training around these issues, and they haven't thought about it. So if they haven't thought about it, I think we're fairly sure that the rest of the world hasn't. And if we don't do that, nobody else is going to. Nobody's going to kind of waft in from the side and kind of go, here, let me take this on. So we have to do that. And that's dead exciting. And I think that's us physically looking to create space for people who stammer. That is delivering on our mission. So our mission isn't just to provide support. It is to make that space and to make those changes. And you know, I'm in a hurry. I don't want to, you know, for me, I don't stammer, so I'm not, you know, my timeline is that I'd like to, you know, see what changes I can push through now rather than further down the line.
How do we get these companies to take stammering seriously? Because sometimes people don't realize the impact that invisible disability like stuttering has. They think, well, you just the common things people say, well, just stop and breathe, stop and think about what you're going to say. They take it lightly. So how do we get companies like this and groups of people to grasp the impact that stuttering has on a person's life?
I think we need to physically tell them, but we need to kind of physically tell them we need to tell them in a way which makes sense. So we need to kind of leave the iceberg behind and focus upon the kind of the simple facts of the case. So for many people who stammer, saying certain words, saying their name can be very hard. So if your banking system and if your automated phone system relies upon someone to say a certain word or to say a certain letter, and you've got an AI system sitting at the back of that which doesn't allow them through, then they're losing their custom. If you're in court and you're not believed because you stammer, you could lose, you know, you could lose your livelihood, you could lose your freedom. if people are thinking that you're not doing direct eye contact and you're looking down and you're blocking and that you're nervous and that you're not sure of what it is, that's freedom being lost. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
If you can't order the food that you like on a daily basis, that's significant. That has a significant impact. So I think we need to paint in crayon, big letters, just what those impacts are in a way which people can understand. And you need to have that information ready. So we've got editorial guidelines, which is a great sheet, which we kind of spent a long time consulting over and have kind of got some of the best brains in there. That sheet kind of goes through and tackles some of the assumptions and ideas around that people have around stammering, and furnishes people who don't stammer with that knowledge. Because people who don't stammer won't have thought about it. Why would they? Have you thought about what's the implications of having cystic fibrosis? I'm not sure that many people know that. So why would they, or should they know about stammering? It's down to us to tell them, and to do so in a way which is really easy and digestible. So give them the sheet and then spell it out, and then get them to look at and think about the implication of losing custom, of losing talent within the organization, of people simply thinking, I'm not going to use that service because it's just going to be too hard. I'm not going to go through that phone system, or I can't make a complaint because the system that's in operation, they keep putting the phone down on me. And I think also to challenge and say, if you're going to talk about equality and diversity and inclusion, then where are we? Why don't we count? Why aren't we on that list? Why haven't you done anything? And I think most of the time what we find is that people kind of go, well, no, we haven't thought about it. Nobody's asked us or talked to us about it. So come in, sit down, tell us about it. Tell us what we can do. And we'll go away and talk to the backroom boys and think about what can be changed. But we have to rattle the cage. We have to go out there and we have to push for it. And I think that does mean changing the language that we use. So let's not be embarrassed. Let's not think of it as a terrible affliction. It is just how some people talk, no more than that, no less than that. It is how some people talk. That's it. Accept it. Some people have got red hair. Some people can't see. So we make room. There should never be any kind of judgment around that. And I think we have to take that change into the whole community. So yes, people will feel frustrated at their stammer. Of course they will, and wish it away. But we need, for the outside world, we kind of need to be bold and unashamed and insist that this is how some people speak, and it needs to be accepted, and there needs to be space made for it. Next question.
So if I wanted to do something in my own country, in my own organization, how would I, who would I contact to get guidance, to get some information about how to go about this?
So I think it's kind of going back to the organization and saying, this is where I work, and this is where I shop. This is my experience today. And this is what I've encountered. Give me the sheet, give me the information, and I'm going to go back to them and ask them to change how they operate. So give me the information so I can complain about this process. Give me the information so I can go to the manager and explain that I do stammer, and that actually when the staff laugh at me because of my stammer, this is actually, as a recognised disability, this is an actionable case. I think the minimum amount of compensation you can receive in the UK is £1,000. Very often Starbucks will give somebody, I don't know, a voucher for £5 and say sorry. I think we kind of need to push it a lot more and kind of go, no, that's not acceptable. So I'm making a complaint to the manager. I'm going to, the manager needs to know what to do. And STAMMA has got a 3-minute video, which all of your staff can see for free. Show them the video so that your staff don't do this anymore. I think if we all demand these materials from the national organisation, which is a huge thing, we can, we then need to kind of get out there and push for those changes and say to the employers or to say to the interviewer when you're going for a job, I stammer, so, I would like to talk about some accommodations to make, so that I can do this job because I think I can do this job. I've got the qualifications and skills and I want to make sure I do my best in this interview. So these are the changes that I would like, so can we discuss these changes so that I can get through this interview because I think I'm the best person for this job. So it's about, and then kind of coming back and kind of presenting the interviewer and the employer with that information so that they have the information. And they have those kind of practical things about you could allow this person extra time, or let's think about in Starbucks could hand a pen to the person and they could write their own name on the cup. There's lots of things. There's lots of ways around that, and not one thing will suit everyone. So it's about really pushing and explaining what those changes are for those individuals to kind of go, this would really help me if this is what you did. And just be unashamed and proactive and push and help the person selling the goods or providing the service understand that in the same way as that they, that they would make accommodations for other people, they need to make accommodations here too. That's just kind of standard practice. That's what's acceptable. That's what's understood in today's society. So please make those changes.
So if we don't speak up, nothing's going to change, is it, Jane?
Well, why would they? Why would anyone make a change unless you ask for it? It doesn't, like, it's there. Life is not fair and things don't happen unless we push for them. So we have to push, and we have to push for that, for the changes that we want to see happen.
Well, Jane, thank you for your hard work that you're doing, and thank you for the work of STAMMA. Really appreciate you being part of StutterFest today. Do you have any closing words for the audience today?
We're facing quite a transformational impact with AI coming down the line. We know that Google and Amazon have kind of thrown in the towel thinking about how to create and understand people who stammer. I think that we need to push hard to make sure that AI doesn't, AI will impact upon every part of our lives. So it will, there will be interviews, there will be systems and processes in kind of buying and doing things which include AI, and we need to now more than ever insist that that people who stammer are understood and included in the process and the design of all of these systems. Otherwise, this community will be disenfranchised.